Jam, Matt.
Hey, Jam, Paul.
I think it's my first time since long time on the call. Thanks for organizing 2 hours earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see you. Yeah, we got to rotate the times with the steward sync and maybe the weekly community call too. So will definitely be a good move.
Yeah, and I think that we also negotiate about that Asian time or call for like local stewards, local chapters. It also sounds cool. Maybe once in a month, and Swifty is willing to lead, so why not? We also can join and lead.
Yeah, for sure. What's up, Anastasia? Hey, Kit.
GM, nice to see Paul here. It's been a while. And also myself. It's a good time, 10 p.m. Let's go.
Let's go. What's up, Amia?
Yeah, Jim. Good day, Paul. Good day, Matt. Good day, Kate. Good day, Anastasia. Glad to have you all here. I believe that this hour is good for the Asia time zone, right?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I just mentioned with Matt and Anastasia confirmed that it's the first time since long time that we're on the community call, and glad to be here actually. I know that it's hard, you know, because we kind of try to coordinate globally, and every one of us in a different part of the globe, but it's our superpower, but at the same time it's weak point for some coordination thing, but we try to handle that. Thanks everyone for that.
Man, we got the whole crew. Arthu, Sophie, also. What's up, everybody?
Yes, it could be that we want to do one of these calls even later sometime. Last month I was in Japan, and in Japan it's midnight right now, which is possible, but it's pushing it for a lot of people that might have to work the next day. So we could consider doing an even later version sometime.
I think Japan can join to our Asian chapters call that we're going to have one per month that we negotiate with Swift they were leading. So I think that will be. I mean, we don't need to everyone to join. Like try to find that time because there is actually no time that's suitable for every one of us. But we can just have this separate calls for Asian part, for US part. I mean, once in a while, of course.
Right.
Good. Recently, I checked with Japan that they are not so active at this moment because, for example, the leader have the full-time job, while at the same time the members are all graduate. So, but right now that they are not so very active at this moment. But I will try to keep regular communication with Japan on what's any updates from Greenpill Japan, or is there any new movement we'll share to all of you?
Yeah, that's true. They don't seem.
I see Leo there. Hey Leo, long time no see, brother. Hope you're good. And for Japan, I think maybe we can invite some guys from Ham community who is doing some regenerative actions on ground, and they are pretty keen to use some blockchain and Web3 mechanics for them. So we might extend our Asian calls not only for chapters, but for broader region activity, and maybe they will be willing to join or be part of Greenpill activity there in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. And I also talked to Monty that we might even include the refi nodes to this call and make it like region coordination, Southeast Asia, bi-regional, and yeah. But I also don't know who is active with the refi nodes in this area.
We will find out that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, get all the region coordination networks in there. Why not?
I just realized I was muted. Okay. What's up, everybody? Matt, is Eve gonna be here today?
Naive has a work call.
Oh, okay.
Can do a little discount version if we wanted to ground ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, that works. All right. Yeah, let's kick, I think we got 18 people in here. Yeah, let's go ahead and kick things off. More people will join. Yeah, welcome everybody just to our July monthly community call. Yeah, excited. I think this is going to be a lot jam-packed one. There's a lot to go through and a lot of cool updates and great talking points. So yeah, let's get started. So that's a little like overview of the agenda. I'm going to pass it over to the Asian chapters to spotlight, talk about some of the things we're doing. There's been some recent discussions around having the monthly call and different calls be Eastern Hemisphere focused. So definitely want to like start that off and get people that will be hosting that next monthly call involved in this one. Next will be chapter and guild check-ins. So just if you have any cool updates with your chapter or guild, you have some time to share that. Then we're going to walk through the network evolution. I put together a little Miro slide presentation that shows all the different visuals from the different workshops we've done, as well as some of the links from the hub. I think it's a nice walkthrough where we have gone in the past year. And then from there, we could discuss going forward, network direction, structure, and roles. And then some news and closing reminders. All right, well, let's kick things off with a meditation session. I think Matt's going to lead that.
Okay. I'm going to turn my camera off because I'm shy. But all right. Yeah, let's just take a couple moments, close your eyes, focus on your breath, feel all the different parts of your body, feel grounded. Appreciate that we're all here together. Everybody loves each other here. We're all super mission aligned. Let's just take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. And then I'm just going to be silent and let's take a minute and just get nice and grounded. Right? Slowly start to come back into our chairs, into this call again, and hopefully feel a little loose. Shake those shoulders out, shake those fingers out, and away we go. I can't wait for you to be back next month.
Good stuff. You did good. Yeah, let's give it a couple seconds. Cool. Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. Appreciate that. All right, let's dive into the call and into the agenda. So yeah, I want to pass it over to first, Fifth Evo, but definitely any of the Asian base chapters. Would love for you guys to talk about some of the updates going on in the Asian hemisphere and things of that nature. Swifty was here, I think, right?
Yep. Reason is that I take off from Taiwan first. So Greenpill recently is doing a hypersearch dashboard. So which means that we are doing a curation website, a place which can create the hypersearch mined by different public goods, individuals or communities in Taiwan. So there will be a very similar example is search related to eco. So for Taiwan's hypersearch dashboard, so it was something like a Korean places for all the Taiwan's hypersearch right there. So this is the first step. And the second one we are doing in Greenpill is preparing the 30 July, the 10 years anniversary for the Ethereum email live meeting at Taiwan. So this is the two key follow-up at the moment from Greenpill Taiwan. And from China, the uncommon is doing the sort of interview with different crypto flyer, which means that there are some sort of a very active public goods contributor. They fly into different places and have some social events, and they interview a lot of them. And one of the recently they published is the interview related with social layer. And of course, they are also preparing China trip for P2P Foundation's Michelle. And we are still discussing about the project and the details this week. So this is two updates from Taiwan and as well as China. So and from Japan, as said before, that they are not quite they can have a bandwidth to host Japan at this moment. But I'm not sure. May pass the mic to. Is it any Design India body here? So they may can share some update from their stepward election. Seems no. If there is a no Greenpill India frenzy here, I just here's some update from their Twitter. Is that they are doing a stepward election on. Yep. Yeah. Sorry.
Guys, I think we currently have Rohit who's in charge. It's a little bit of a challenge for him to join these calls, so maybe I can just jump in and contribute to telling what they've been up to.
That sounds good.
Yeah. I think I'll do that and give a small update on also with the Greenpill campaign, how it's going. Sounds good. Yeah, and I think in terms of GP India, we had done a bunch of activity on gardens because we wanted to Rohit was struggling to have time for this because if you guys know he works for OSO and it's getting a little challenging for him. So we have done a voting on electing younger leaders who can take over the chapter. Hopefully from next month we might have one of them start joining the calls. The folks who have joined as of now, they're a little they're not that strong on English, but they're working in this region called Wayanad, which is the frontier. It's a very good on ground. They're doing a bunch of on ground NGO activities, so they're pretty good. They'll be mostly place based, but I'll try to encourage them to start joining these calls. And in terms of the Greenpill campaign, it's 20 days in, and we have 175 NFTs minted already. And some of the success stories is We had Agroforest DAO raise an entire $300 on one of their bounties, which is like the highest in terms of fundraise. And we have had close to 250 bounties done completely across all the 3 platforms. So there's been decent engagement. And now we are going to have like at the end of the month, we'll have some stuff with base happening, like a mini app to mint the green pills and stuff. So that's next update. We had Arbitrum repost, and that probably was the highest spike we saw. 50 NFTs minted on one day when they reposted one of the tweets. We are going to have some help from Cello next. That's I think the team's going to be back from ECC, so we're going to see some action there. It's very silent in optimism, so I really have no clue what to do there. So if you guys feel like we can get through to someone in OP to help with some cross promotion, that'll be great. And I think the last thing is that I think a lot of chapters have still not like posted some of the bounties. And if in case anyone wants help with marketing, we are happy to like come up with like collaborative stuff. So any chapters listening in, you think there's some bounty you want to put out, like the secret is to shill these bounties. Only then we get, because we're not Gitcoin, so it's going to take some time to see the traction come in. And I think it's a great instrument to show how we can do this end-to-end on-chain impact funding, execution and stuff, right? So I think, yeah, marketing, we need more promotional support for sure. Happy to brainstorm on this separately in this call, maybe in the end. So yeah, that's the update from India. Hope everyone's doing good.
Thank you, Ifru. So maybe the next one would be Greenpill Fangan. So I saw there is very quite active recently, and hopes to pass the mic to Greenpill Fangan and see their great update here. Hi, Paul.
So yes, maybe let me start, and Anastasia then add from her side. So first of all, I want to congratulate Irhu and India chapter for delivering a lot. I also want to congrats guys from Greenpill Dev for delivering a lot. In case of code and applications, because we really struggle here with CTO, with developer skills, and I'm just really jealous here, guys. Good, keep going. And of course, one thing is to do things, and another thing is to sell things. So we, on the competitive market, no one brings us money, I mean us as a region. So we need not only build, but we need to sell. And as Irhu said correctly, we need marketing and sales. We need people to know, people to use, and that's where the impact. So that's important, and I hope there will be that. So yeah, my appreciation and congrats, guys. You're doing well. You're doing proper. Good to see it. So from our side here, we just have this partnership with Drobonomics, and we install 3 from 5 air quality detectors on the Pangan. So now we have seal lifetime, PM 2.5, PM 10, humidity, pressure, and the temperature on island. And that's important because air quality is a huge problem, and not only in Asia, but in Los Angeles, for example, also, and in China for sure. Yeah, so that's the important things. At the PIN technology, you might get your attention on that. We might have opportunity to negotiate to have some detectors for free. We'll see on that. Also, I had before connection with Mexican startup. They tokenize weather data and also proposed to provide for free weather tokenized station. But so far we haven't confirmed it yet. So as soon as we confirm that, I will also update on the DPIN Discord channel on the Greenpill. More of that, we prepare an Ethereum anniversary on 30th of July at Mesta on Pangan with support from Pizza DAO. We'll have pizza free for attendees as before. That's what people like. They like pizza and they like pizza for free. And so we will try our best to have a offline event, and we will have speakers here and Schillers here. So we will talk about our region build and some updates on our region build. We keep going as like a synthesis X with 2 of our products, DCleanup and Region Bazaar. So, but as I say, we have a lot of blockers and obstacles on the way, and most of all because we have lack of tech skills and lack of tech contributors. So if any one of you want to join and support or contribute, volunteer or support on any case, we need CTO. We need responsible person with tech knowledge to deliver our products, especially for Region Bazaar because it's complicated things. So we need that guy not only to kind of take responsibility for tech and for work with open source contributors, but also why I call to you guys, because you know the open source technology and the region technology that already available. So we don't need to create them from the zero. We can use them and integrate them, right? So yeah, that's main things that going on from Microsynthesis X here. And I also want to share some personal thing. I might go to Fosis Niman, is a Chinese community and properties in Chiang Mai, and they're part of Zuzalu. And I will lead their 2 months of longevity microbiome experiment. With the special diet and the fitness and sport and so on to change lifestyle. So if you want to join, I will go there around. I negotiate right now with the guys in Fosis Niman. But if it will be confirmed, I of course announce that. And you might join offline if you want to come to Thailand and live in Chiang Mai and Fosis. And Fosis is community of developers, builders around the Ethereum community. So they cool guys. So if you want to go and join, we will have this amazing longevity program for 8 weeks. And if you cannot join, we also will do online marathon for that. But in that case, you will need to figure out with microbiome test and your location. So basically, it's like you're do it 2 times before you start. You provide your poo. And after finish, after 8 weeks, sorry, of proper diet and lifestyle changing, you also give your poo 1 more time to have 2 reports. First report before and another report after. I did it personally on Zugrama at Kerala. We did it 6 weeks. So I saw results and I changed my lifestyle. I changed what I eat and what I do. And the sport and food that you intake is the 2 most influenced factors that influence your longevity. Whatever DNA you have, whatever environment you have, and so on. Yes, environment is important. Yes, your DNA, epigenetic important, but what you eat and what you do, that's the most influence things, and that's what we can influence. You know, we don't need to eat supplements. We don't need to pay a lot of money for something. We just have to adjust a little bit what we eat and our lifestyle. So it's mostly all updates from my side around our Greenpill and region build in general. And Anastasia, maybe I also want to add that I'm personally interested in, as I call, Web3ification. So I'm supporting 2 local businesses, real world businesses. One third place, another is chocolate factory, small one, to go Web3. And I think, yes, it's not public good, it's not environmental or social cause, but I think it's working with broader adoption for blockchain and Ethereum, because the EVM is the most developed, and of course we will go on EVM. I will share future the details how successful that, but I see that maybe nice direction to put efforts to bring traditional businesses on chain and go to Web3. So yeah, in this case, thanks for listening to me, for your attention. Glad to be here. Thanks again, guys, that we have 2 hours earlier call. I'm really appreciate for that. And Anastasia, if you're willing to add something, please jump on stage. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Well, I think Paul covered all the basic updates. What I can add about the Greenpill campaign, I had in mind the composting bounty, recycling bounty. I created the test of it. It kind of everything works cool. I appreciate the efforts in building the app, but yeah, with the law, kind of basically me and Paul only doing all the activities, we can't really afford to shill it well. And when you Irtu mentioned about shilling, yes, you can help us to shill on X, but we actually need a pretty much big shill in the local community. Yeah, I'm gonna see what I can do because I found the one person who might be interested in supporting this kind of initiatives, but I still didn't discuss everything. So this is one thing. And regarding the 10 years of Ethereum, also one interesting thing that finally I want to try, if everything goes well, I want to try to focus on artists because this place that Paul is talking about called Miesto, it has like very artistic people who are working there and coming and visiting. So we're hoping to show them a little bit some cool features in the Web3 and how to monetize and promote their art and what they can do, what's the possibilities. I always had a dream to kind of create this artist workshop. It didn't happen, but I think this Ethereum event might be a possibility to accomplish it well. And about the altruist air quality sensors, I love this device. I'm watching the information every day and shared more about it on the hub if you're willing to read, and highly recommend also to get familiar with this. It's a future of decentralized air quality monitoring, and glad to have 5 items on Kopangan.
Let me add one thing from my side. Thank you, Anastasia, for updates. I know we have a leak of funds as the Greenpill in general, but maybe there is sense to make marketing sale department under Greenpill that will focus on partnerships and selling and promotion and so on and so on. I'm also in a tough life situation right now. I cannot promise that I will lead that, but I can promise that I will contribute as much as possible. And maybe one day we will obtain resources to incentivize people to take bigger responsibility, because without responsibility, it's hard to deliver things. And we know that without compensation, rewards, and incentivize, it's hard to allocate people attention and responsibility. Just small extra addition from me. I think that might be support that part, that last mile for Origin, Build, Region Stack, Greenpill, NFT, impact miner, and all the things that we have already and we will have in future. So I think that's important. Yeah, that's small extra for me. Thank you.
I think that's all of the Asian chapters. Kit, yeah, go for it.
Yes, I thought I would just do a quick little report about one of our fellow members. Last month, I was in Japan and I met Luciano a couple times. And Luciano is a member of the New York chapter, but he's often in Japan, and somehow he's gotten involved with a village that's in the north of Japan, and he has convinced them to use Web3 funding tools to distribute funds. And I'm not sure how he pulled this off, but the people in the village, they're totally normie people, but somehow they're very interested in trying out some quadratic funding and some of these other things. And Luciano even got Fran from Superfluid. Some of you may know him. And he speaks Japanese. So he also went to the village and talked to them about the tools. And now they're planning a hackathon in October. So I'm going to drop a link to Farcaster where he talks about it. The name of the village is Ketanuma, and he's calling it a civic tech hackathon with the local government. And unfortunately, I have other plans, so I won't be there. Maybe I'll participate remotely, but I think this could become a kind of pioneering effort. If he can actually get normal bureaucrats and civil servants to start using some of our Web3 funding tools, that could be a breakthrough that could ripple across to other communities, not just in Japan, but around the world. So if you're interested, see the link. And Luciano is fairly easy to find on Podcaster, but also on the Greenpill channel. So have a look.
Yeah, go for it, Anastasia.
Yeah, about this village, was that something that they were taking those cheap houses and kind of remodeling them and then form the village, or it wasn't about that? I remember
That's actually, yeah, that's a different group. That's the group you're referring to. They call themselves Zoo City, Japan, and they're in the mountains north of Tokyo in Nagano. But Luciano is also involved, small world. And so I'm sure there will be cross-pollination going on between those two ongoing efforts, because that's another interesting thing that people might want to investigate. Zoo City, Japan. I'll look it up.
The guy behind that is pretty sophisticated with Web3 funding mechanics, so I think they have no lack of information and resources on that. I don't know the name. I forget his name, but I follow him a bit.
Yeah, his name is Kobe or Kobe, something like that. I'll find it in a minute.
Correct. It's him, yes.
Yeah, he was in Thailand. Yeah.
Nice. Well, yeah, that's great. Great updates from all the Asian chapters and some cool stuff going on in Japan. Yeah, so stay tuned for a whole call, just Asian focus going forward. So yeah, those whole updates for a whole hour. So yeah, good stuff, guys. Cool. So now opening it up to rest of chapters and the guilds to give a check-in. Given where we're at time, just try to be brief, a couple minutes. Just the key updates that you want to share about your chapter. I can share some stuff about the Dev Guild, but if anybody wants to go first, I could go last. Okay. And if you want to go, just raise your hand. So it's clear. So I'll go ahead and start with the Dev Guild. Paul mentioned the regenerative stack. Shout for that. And this has been one of the, I think, also, I didn't know writing was so hard. But this has been very fulfilling to write this series. And I just dropped a link to this last article, which I think is the best one to read because it recaps the whole series, has all the infographics in it. So I'll just speed run through just kind of showing the infographics. And if you want to, read the article in full detail, you can when you have some time. So, we kind of outlined a roadmap for the rest of the year across the 4 projects in the stack, which are Green Goods, Greenpill. Outlines this more, I'd say, like a group than a specific project, and then squad safety. And then, we got some diagrams around the Allo Alliance. So that's the group I was talking about, set of different tools in the ecosystem that are centered around impact reporting, all the way to capital formation. And this is a living, diagram. Definitely would love to add more projects here. So if you have a tool, send me your logo and I can add it. And then we have a Greenpill infographic, one of my favorites, kind of showing the 3 things we're currently tracking for Greenpill, which is showing up for these calls like this, engaging, on social media, donating in grant rounds, and what does that give you access to within Greenpill land? Gardens, cookie jar, Greenpill DNFT, Prosperity Pass, there's a Greenpill badge, region airdrops, and also a quick shout out on Greenwell. We're sending the final list for this first batch for Prosperity Passport. So basically, the Greenpill badge is that Prosperity Pass has is being driven by having Greenwell. So I'm gonna share a link to the Greenwell Guild. So definitely do that today in the next few hours if you can, because we'll be doing a final export to get that Prosperity Greenpill badge, which can get you, potential cello rewards and things of that nature. And then, go to green goods. So if you're curious about goods, I'm sorry, my computer's kind of scrolling crazy. Here we talk about green goods. You can see the kind of MDR flow for media detail and reviewing. And we did a great workshop. We had this past Monday with like Diogo, Anastasia, Wasabi, and kind of onboarding onto the gardens. Jonathan, really insightful. So great having everybody on that call. And that's it. And then at Capital Journey, I think a big part is figuring out this is, and super shout out to Sophie who did all these infographics. I'm not sure if she's on the call, but this one's all hand drawn and kind of Lord of the Ring inspired to kind of detail the pathway to the capital and the ecosystem. And then I think green goods. This one's I think a really nice one too for green goods, showing the cycle of creating green garden actions, tokenizing that with certain tools, evaluating that, and then that getting funded. And I think that's the last one. And then you can see the stack at the end of charging up. So so go ahead and check out that series. Collected. There's only 24 collectibles, so collected while it's still there. But shout out to like I said, Sophie and Natsul in particular for helping with the art. Who wants it? Who wants to go next? Yeah, that's it. You go for it.
I forgot to discuss the PizzaDAO NFT acquisition. So the poll is finished, and it showed us that more people from the community decided to buy free original PizzaDAO NFTs. And I was going to ask, what are the next steps?
Yeah, next steps I would say would be buy the pizza boxes. So so we could definitely coordinate a time to do that. Matt, I could figure out when to do that, and hopefully we could do it when you're free or something. We could all hop on the call and do it together. Hey, Owen, happy to be here.
Okay, good.
Cool. Any other chapter updates before we get into?
I could give a couple quick updates. So with the Writers Guild, I'm going to show the forum that we've been kind of spreading the word on for the Web3 tooling series. Next step is going to be interviews, and then the actual writing of this series will probably branch out a little bit more into like regen tokenomics and DeFi strategies and on-off ramping and kind of fractal out from just what's in that form itself. And then also tomorrow, the Writers Guild, Sarah is going to be leading a workshop that's going to help us kind of formalize some of the structures that we have in place for kind of collaboratively writing stuff. So I'm super excited about that. And then I just posted a reply to somebody in the writers channel on Discord, but I think that will help us make it possible for just individuals and smaller groups to kind of run with the ideas that they have instead of, because up to this point, Writers Guild has done books, very large collaborative projects, but we also want individuals to kind of just boom, roll with it and we'll figure out the measuring contributions and compensation side of thing, but also the what's that minimal level of fee. So even if it's one or two people are working on something, what's like that minimum level of feedback within the larger group and publishing and that whole rigmarole. Within Greenpill New York City, I feel like the big thing is what Luciano's working on. And the plan is to take those, like after he's kind of executed that, kind of figure things out a little bit. And especially just, we're kind of waiting for the tech stack to really come together to an extent. But we're hoping to kind of just port that over into running a QF or just a funding round, whatever you'd want to call it, within Red Hook, Brooklyn. The initial goal, the plan is still to go through a mutual aid organization. So we don't have to like really overthink the curation aspect. We just go through the mutual aid organization that's already done the curation. So yeah, as resources and documentation kind of gets polished, and especially like as the case study eventually gets put together, we'll be sure to kind of share that with everybody. And then I think the only other update with the New York City chapter, I'm a bit out of the loop. I'm like a broken record. I had the baby and I'm not doing anything. But yeah, we're still doing our monthly meetups. We kind of more formally structured like a lead group, which is nice. I think it's 6 of us. So it's been good to kind of actually really kind of connect there. I see Mike from Abundance Protocols in the call today as well. Ron Turetsky from Bread Chain has been super active, and he's been running a lot of the meetups. Like, I'm super excited about that. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I'll leave Amia.
Okay, yeah, Jam everyone. So at Greenpill Nigeria, we have been on an onboarding series through our public goals and referral education initiative, which we take the Greenpill. We, at the initial stage, we stipulated to do this for 10 weeks, and then we are in the 9th week. We are in the 9th week. So, and then over these weeks, we have been able to do this with over 8 communities. And then at this point, I may be the only one doing this, so I'm stretched a bit that I may not continue to do it for the final week. So, but I'm grateful for the 8 communities that we have onboarded to refer and public good space, because I know and I believe, and then through statistics and through the numbers, Nigeria is also one of the biggest adopters of this novel technology, which is blockchain, crypto, and the Web3, so to say. So most of us here may not be aware of this niche. That is a refer and public goods, and in as much as we have the numbers, but we may not have the numbers in this niche or this part of crypto or Web3. So that initiative was geared towards making sure that we create as much awareness as we can to make sure that people are aware, because I believe that if people are aware, then they will be curious to know more, and from there they will start to explore. And then from that, we were able to build our Twitter space, because our Twitter page, because it is a novel page. We built it from 0 to over 100, and then our community is over 80 from scratch. And then they are filled with real region and the people that are curious to know more. And then, because I know from the DM that I'm getting, they're linking me to some of those things that I may not be aware within my environment, like people that have been doing what Greenpill and what we are doing in Rafa in Nigeria, but they are doing it through the Web2 space. So it was a great ride. And then lastly, we are still reviving and revitalizing the Water Cup project, which we are doing with Atlantis P2P. And then we are doing this with the Impact Miner. We are the survey and the research stage, which we have deployed through the Guinea forest landscape. And then we have 6 researchers that have gone through the streets and the localities of 3 states, Enugu, Anambra, and Imo, making sure that they cover up to 5 communities each. So the results are in the Impact Miner, and then we see validate that. And then our other implementation of that Water Cup is also at the landscape. I believe that 4 of them is at the Amazon forest, and then 1 is at Guinea Forest. So I urge us to also contribute and then make sure that this is a success. So that is the update for now at Greenpill, Nigeria. If others come to mind, I may put it up later. And then Matt, I noticed that I couldn't edit or I couldn't make any update at the hub, maybe, but I was able to do that last year, but I tried and I couldn't. So I don't know if there is anything with the permissions.
I'm sorry, you said, did you say Charmverse or
No,
did you
it's
say?
not that. No, the hub. It's not the Charmverse, the hub.
I'll check if there's an admin notification or anything, but yeah, I'll DM you. We'll figure out what the issue is.
Okay,
Ahmed,
no.
did you just recently join the hub?
I didn't. I made a post there last year when we lost Easy. So, but for this year, today was my first time of going over to the Greenpill chapter there. So maybe because of that.
Because yeah, okay, yeah, I'll look into it yeah, okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
All right, just with the sake of time, I think we're already at pull-up time, so yeah, I'll drop the pull-up, and then for anybody that has to leave early before we get into the rest of the other half of the call. So go ahead and open up the pull-up app if you have it, or download it if you don't. And let me actually fast forward to the pull-up screen. There we go. So yeah, go ahead and claim the pull-up. I'm gonna test to make sure it's working. Green. Cool. So it should be minting. And yeah, enjoy. Just this ties into Greenpill, so make sure to collect it. I do not. Yeah, I know that's the thing. Past people have been on calls with not collecting the pull-ups. Oh, we're in the Web3 space. You got to, come on. You got to collect these. What are we here for? All right. Cool. Well, any other chapter check-in? Want to make sure if anybody got anything they quickly want to mention before we go into walk through the network evolution. Cool. All right, let's keep it moving. So, yeah, we're gonna walk through network evolution. I got a nice little Miro board cooked up. I'll drop a link for anybody who wants to join and take a look at things as we go through. Matt, you got that in the chat? Cool. Okay. So this very quickly put together this presentation with like I said, hub links and some images and prior workshops. Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure. We don't have Lana on the call. Lannis on the call. I'm not sure if she's here. No, I can't see. Okay, because I would ask her to share some words. But basically, let's get walked through from 20. I guess you could say late 2023 to kind of where we are now, to a degree. Well, this is from the perspective of like the workshops and things posted on the hub. So, which is actually really nice. There's actually a lot of stuff people have posted. So yeah, let's go through this. And the reason to do this is because after this, I know we're gonna go into like a discussion around some of the conversations around the network structure, the direction and goals. And I think this is a good to help set up people and kind of bring everybody up to speed on the network. Matt, I will be calling on you to chime in. I know we didn't like fully coordinate, but hopefully you could share some words throughout. Cool. I'm not sure if Corey's here too, but if you say him as well. All right. So when things kicked off in like let's say 2024, you know, or 2020, late 2023, or because I know the network started in the summer, but really I know there's an onboarding frenzy more like Q3, Q4, where you had a lot of new chapters come in, a lot of, you know, this kind of energy, not like, you know, too much structure, kind of, you know, people just trying out things. And there wasn't really any rules to becoming a steward. Just if there just somebody hadn't made a chapter in your locale, then there you go. You can become, you know, create a chapter. And there was a lot of, you know, growth from that. But wasn't really like, you know, structured. And then from that, a lot of chapters did become, you know, inactive and stuff, you know, probably due to that lack of structure. But one of the great things I think of from 2024 was East Denver, which was, you know, you had Rodrigo, Mexico, Luciano, New York, Denver, Jade, you had Leo, Germany, myself, LA, you had Izzy, Nigeria. So a lot of us did come together at East Denver 2024 to meet. And that was, you know, definitely a great selling point. And I think the biggest takeaway from that Greenpill, from that meeting was around guilds and kind of formalizing those. And the Gov Guild became a thing. The Dev Guild was already a thing, but became like more recognized after East Denver, especially with the hackathon work. And yeah, that was kind of the energy there. And at the time, the structure you could say was very much where you had, you know, admins, you know, controlling the treasury, you know, network stewards, network leads, which, you know, with Izzy and Atlanta. And then you just had stewards of guild and chapters, and you could be a member of a guild chapter. So there really wasn't much for people if you weren't a part of these things. Like, this was kind of the only things you could do. And, you know, what did that look like, right? We had, you know, the guilds, chapters could do, you know, meetups, region projects. We did have a grant arm more so last year that hasn't really been as active. I think region coordination has kind of facilitated more of that, but we did used to do grant training and do some QF community rounds. Atlanta was a big part of that, leading some of those community round efforts. And then when you looked at our socials, things were very not connected. And when we were connected, just like having links to where like you're on Twitter and you can link to Discord, or you could, you know, easily navigate to other platforms. We didn't have any of that, and everything was very much isolated in its own, you know, niche. And if you join the network and you needed links, it was just the links people had bookmarked and that they would send to you. And then, you know, similar to like our meetings as well, we had Zoom, Discord, Google Meet for different calls. We had Loom, so which is still, some of this is still similar, but was very disconnected. And then we went into phase 2. So I think phase 2 is, I would say, one core part is that's when Matt joined. So that kicked off phase 2. And then kind of this focus on onboarding material. I think that was a big like effort that then kind of kicked off the next wave of, I guess you could say, network steward engagement, involvement. So that was like onboarding the revamping the onboarding, creating a Charmverse, taking the Greenpill, cleaning up the Discord. And we did a couple Miro board activities during that time, one in June and one in August, where we identified, you know, different things around, you know, what we need to do. And a lot of this we did. So, you know, some of this we still definitely could do, but a lot was accomplished with some of those goals. We also created the pods as a way to facilitate the engagement of people that have a chapter or a guild that was, you know, made sense for them, or, you know, was a part of interest. And knowing that a lot of people come to the network with an interest in the environment, education, DPIN, etc. So the pods were created. The Dev Guild also, you know, had a lot of growth during this time with getting into Octane Epoch, and they're starting to do workshops and stuff that have now become a pillar for the Dev Guild. And then we also did some chapter check-ins. We checked in with the different chapters from across that, you know, because at the time we didn't know who was active, who was not active. So me, Matt, and Corey set up a appointment that people could schedule and, talk to as many stewards as we could to learn what was going on, like what the chapters needed, etc. And there's a lot of insights and a lot of commonalities found. Matt, do you have any thoughts you want to chime in on this section?
I don't think I have too much to add, but yeah, it's really wild to think back to those initial chapter check-ins and like the state of affairs at that time, and really kind of figuring things out from scratch and like having no idea who was doing what. And now here we are, and I've said it before, but heading into GG24, we knew, or heading into GG23, we knew like, okay, these are the projects that were in GG22. This is who we're hoping applies. This is like, who's kind of like very active, and that's exactly who applied. So I'd like to do another round of chapter check-ins and have it be very open, so like everybody can kind of attend. So I don't know how exactly we'd want to frame it, but yeah, it's been a pretty wild journey. There really hasn't been that much time. So, but it is nice to look back at these artifacts and say, oh, okay, things have changed drastically, but like the thoughts that were in our head are pretty similar to what they are now, which is nice that we're not like totally like, let's pull 180 and do things totally different. It's just, we have limited bandwidth and there's only so much that can kind of happen at any given time, but it's very nice to see that we're kind of moving in like a consistent direction. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a couple highlights here. So things that are in green are things that some have been accomplished to a degree. We have some things around Greenpill region score. I guess you could say we're getting there with Greenpill to a degree, so this could maybe become like a yellow. We have the marketing hub. Paul mentioned that earlier in the call, and people have been mentioning, we've been talking about creating a marketing potential design guild, or something of that nature that could really promote things. And so that's definitely something. So do cookie jar funds. That's something that has happened, but there's still more to go. So yeah, there's a lot of insights here. And then you see around chapter growth, create pool of funds for chapter events, meetups. It's still something to do. Greenpill's mentioned here. But then you also see things we have accomplished, like the pods, create proposals in the hub, reaching out to Fagel, finish, so it's just, there's a lot that's, been accomplished. And I think it is good to really reflect back and see what has been done. So yeah, so definitely dive in there when you have some time if you want. So after that phase, where were we at? Okay, now we had pods. So now you could be, kind of a pod. Being a member of a pod wasn't, still isn't a super formal thing, but, was something that you could pick your interest and, check out that channel. And we had pod moderators. A lot of the pod mods, are stewards. So that's definitely something that's been a big overlap and something that's a theme throughout the whole network currently. But, something we could look to, explore and have being a pod mod be like a potential, way to progress within the network to becoming a steward. So yeah, what did that look like after that? We didn't have grant training anymore. That kind of, was community rounds. But it's mainly just guilds now. Now you got pods, now you have the chapters. And then things became way more connected. Like what this indicates is this linking to where if you're looking at taking a green pill, you would get all the links to be able to get to Twitter, to the website, etc. We updated the website with some of these links so you could go to the website and find the charters, find the hub, etc. So things just got a lot more interconnected. Similar with we axed out Zoom from things, and that's now use Discord and Google Meet. Excuse me. With Discord just being for the Gov Guild call, the bi-weekly community call, and then Google Meet being used for most of our like this call here and most other calls that we do. Then we went to the third phase. So the first, the biggest thing in this phase was the passing of Izzy. During this time, it was definitely like I'd say 4 main stewards, like me, Izzy, Cole, and Matt. And so yeah, Izzy's passing was a big effect on this, on the network level, personal level, but on the network level as well to just keep things going. And then so there's this, that was a lot. So so during that time we had Greenpill Nigeria did stuff. We started working on a new chapter onboarding, and D-side pod proposal. This is a pretty big time period. This covers a lot, but I definitely want to highlight like the Izzy initiatives we ideated and created the garden signaling pool for. So this is around like how to keep Izzy's memory alive and its legacy growing. So we did things like squad staking with some ideas, doing a citizens round, and I definitely think we should still look. We still need to act on some of these things. So that could be something as we figure out network structure, we could enshrine as a part of the network. So there's a lot of stuff there, and then a ton of stuff done throughout the network from Kenya, building a regen hub. We updated the hub into a regen hub, and we also have Cote d'Ivoire, Dev Guild, Recap, the Writers Guild, did on-chain capital allocation book. Brazil was super active. We had some posts around bringing the network on chain and laying the groundwork. The newsletter from things. So Matt, do you want to chime in on this section?
Yeah, I don't know what else I really have to add, to be honest with you. It's a lot has been accomplished over the last year, and things are just continuing to slowly evolve. And I feel like you said it all. Sometimes less.
I didn't talk about the funding mechanisms, so you could, if you want to.
The funding mechanisms proposals.
Yeah, like we had a bunch of thoughts around.
Okay, true. So I feel like a big thread that we've kind of been tugging on that, and Paul kind of mentioned it earlier as well, is up to this point it's been very much like very, very volunteer based, and we have no real incentive structures in place. Figuring out like it's kind of a mixture of the measuring impact and also like the actual capital allocation side of things, I think is something that's a big deal. So the cookie jars, we had a cookie jar already. I think it emptied out. We got to kind of whip up a new one or a couple new ones. Let me look at the rest of these bullets. What else we got here?
Common pool resources.
Okay, we got the Gardens funding pool, which is still kind of gaining a little bit of momentum. I'm personally super excited about that. I feel like that's going to be the answer for a lot of this stuff. This is a bit outside of what's written there, but I think also figuring out like the flow state streaming funding for stuff tied into Greenpill reputation is going to play into thing, and then also tied into the Karma Gap Common Impact Data Standards. So like it's not just all right, everybody just flowing money to everybody. The weights of it will be kind of dictated by your contributions and also the impact that's being created within your chapter and guild. There's probably a million other things that I'm forgetting about at the moment, but
and we'll dive into more and stuff.
I'll leave it with this. We're a bunch of regens here. I'm personally very excited to get these structures and mechanisms in place so that we can operate from like a very, very professional financial level as well. And we don't have a ton of money in the treasury. That's fine. It doesn't even matter. I want to operate as if we had a ton of money in the treasury, and that every dollar and cent is kind of important, and like really formalizing this stuff so that when we do have more funds, like we have these systems in place and we're not scrambling like, oh my gosh, this is real. How are we doing this? I'm personally like super pumped within Greenpill and just with like our broader space to really start plugging into these like DeFi financial primitives a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder how often BT could play into that to a degree as well.
I think it definitely will. And I'm sure we'll be sharing more information about that. But the long and short of it is we have our treasury. It's still somewhat liquid, but we can plug it into a vault. I forget what DeFi protocols, but it's any strategy within like a couple. I think it's Yearn, Aave, and maybe one more. It seems like a very simple solution. So we're not like, oh, we're going to take these tokens and put it into this. I think it's possible that it could be pretty plug and play. It's like, you know, we have a bunch of OP in our treasury just sitting there. So whatever we got, I want to make sure that we're like yielding on it and generating as much revenue as we can with it. If it's not that much, I don't even care. Like we got to make we got to be very capital efficient and like make the most of what we got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good stuff. Cool. And then now that kind of that goes from September to now. So we're now kind of at a space where we have the pods, and you know, we could have some potential new ones. I know before we talked about like having funding mechanism, potentially like a social financial pod. And I really think the pods actually, you know, when we get into the later discussion, it's some of the thoughts I was having around this new network structure, and I was trying to figure out things. I think the pods could be that container for a lot of these things. I'll pause, but I'm very bullish on pods helping with a lot of, you know, figuring things out for the network. And being those first working groups we create for different things like growth, marketing, etc. So then we have, you know, we definitely want to add support for chapters. That's definitely something that, you know, still exists. Chapter event funding. I guess you could say we do have a garden so people can, you know, request funds for events, but hasn't been super formalized. And then there was talks, you know, around creating network support. So having people to support, you know, chapters, growth, community, etc. That, you know, hasn't happened to a large degree, hasn't been really formalized. So there definitely are people I'd say that are doing that in an informal manner already. And then network stewards, there were also discussions around creating, you know, kind of branches and giving autonomy within those branches to stewards to lead the different aspects of the network. Some of this still might come to, you know, into fruition, but definitely there's been a lot more discussions and a lot more new ideas tossed into the pot that we'll then kind of figure out what we want to do going forward. But this was, you know, some of the initial ideas for the structure. And then now we're at the fourth phase. We're at now, right, where we have a couple threads going on the hub, evolving Greenpill as a brand, down mutual aid network, the Pizza DAO, NFTs, Anastasia mentioned, the Regen Stack article I shared earlier. And we also have a thread for, you know, any a whole suite of proposals. So if you have, you know, thoughts, people have been, you know, sharing thoughts there. And then the latest workshops we did have been around the toolkit. So people created a poll, a lot of prompts for different tools or for different ways we could approach onboarding. And then we selected a few and mapped it to the different tools that, you know, be used. How Greenpill chapters benefit individuals, how to approach Web3 grants. It's all things that, and these were the most highly voted prompts from that workshop. How to easily onboard Web2 folks into Greenpill network. So I think all very relevant thoughts. And let's see. Yeah, and I think that's it. I have just a space here to do the workshop and things for, you know, as we start the discussion, you know, for part of the call. I know we're already at the hour, so, you know, I know we set this call for 2 hours, so I think everybody is expecting us to stay on longer. But yeah, that's the walkthrough of the network. Any questions, thoughts? We could now segue into the discussion around network structure and things of that nature. And we actually open up the hub for that. Cool. Cool. Yeah, let's go into let me go back to the slides, and we're gonna go into discussion. Cool. So now it's just open time to discuss network direction, structure, and the rules. There's been a lot of conversation in the network since over the past month or so around structure and kind of figuring out how to, have more clarity around how people could progress in the network, what it means to be a chapter, what it means to be a pod, what it means to be a guild. A lot of these things are being fleshed out. So maybe first could kick it off to, I don't know if Pino's on the call, to maybe talk about the super benefit workshops we've done recently. And I'm not sure if he's here.
Yeah, I'm here. You want me to talk about that?
Yeah, if you want to, I could say some words, but
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I don't feel a need to have to. So go ahead.
Okay, cool.
I can jump in and answer any questions people want.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So and Rowan and is Mercurial part of it too, right? Yeah, Mercurial hosted us for it's been 2 workshops, kind of going over the super benefit DAO framework for how they structure things. I think there's a lot of I've had a lot of similar thoughts. I think the main takeaways for me around like cell structure, around kind of defining different cells within the network across the chapters, the guilds, and the pods, and kind of defining what their 3 Ps are, which I believe are purpose, practice, and progress. With purpose being like, what is the purpose of your chapter or your guild? What are you aiming to do? Like to give you an example, the dev guild, our purpose is around supporting chapters with resources, workshops, tools centered around capital allocation, formation, impact tracking, and coordination. And then how do we practice that? Okay, we do workshops, we build tools with open source, etc. And what's our progress? We track our progress through like Karma Gap, things of that nature. And so very cool. I think super insightful. I think something that we could use to start figuring out things for just understanding the structure within the networks across the different chapters and guilds, finding the commonalities and things of that nature. And then there also was the the phases. Could you remind me on? I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but there also is another aspect around what phase is the network at, or a cell is at, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact names are now off the top of my head, but it starts from like conversation to formation to collaboration and all the way up to like constituency scale, I think. Well, that's like scale for phase, but phase, like when you come together to start talking about doing something together, then you kind of form it into something a little bit more cohesive. Then it becomes something that has more structure and rules around it. It sounds obvious, but there's just knowing that there's different ways, different tools that you'll need at different stages, different ways of decision making, different ways of working together. So that was the kind of the thinking behind that. I'll try and pull up the resource around that.
Yes. Yeah. So I found it very insightful. I know Matt, you're also on the call. Any thoughts that want to share? Any takeaways from it?
It was awesome. Shout out to Super Benefit DAO team for really taking the time and helping us out. I think their framework is pretty perfectly aligned with like kind of the DAO of DAO structure that Greenpill has. So yeah, it's as usual. Nothing is kind of answered overnight, but I think the 2 workshops have been great. I'm sure that we'll have at least another call. And yeah, I can't really articulate exactly how we take like, okay, this is all good information. This is the artifacts and the kind of structure that we currently have and the ideas for what we're kind of looking to move into and like how we bundle all that and actually transition. But we'll figure it out. And there's certainly more than enough very bright people in our community to kind of help figure that transition out. And yeah, I think reading the thread that Afo is currently sharing is probably the best way to actually like absorb and get the full context of things. But yeah, at the core, like this cell structure, I think that is what Greenpill network is, and that's what makes us very anti-fragile and pluralistic. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Who else was there? I think it might have been only us that were there. I don't know if that's not so in the call today.
I think Kaz is here today.
That's
Yeah,
it?
Kaz is here, right?
Okay.
Yeah, Kaz too.
Guys, you got any thoughts you'd like to takeaways you'd like to share? And you could also segue us into other parts of the conversation.
Yeah, I think same shout out. Thanks to Super Benefit and Greenpill London for hosting that. It's very much needed. We're at the state where all of these stages of evolution that you went through. As an organization, it's natural that we go through them, and I think that we're at the inflection point right now that we're going to have to move on to the next stage, and that conversation is started in multiple different forums. This is one of them that's been one of the more productive. The other one that's happening is with Turgadas and that team. Also conversation about how do we move forward, and then I think that I don't know if you have it on the agenda Alpha to talk about the proposals. So discussions happening all over the place, and we need to just get to a place where we can take actions and move on, move into the next stage of evolution, which I'm really excited for.
Nice. Yeah, let's see if I could pull up Koi. And I'll go to your proposal if you want. We can talk about that. Yeah, Koi posted. So I don't think Koi's on a call today, but so Koi posted a thread update. I think he shares the gravity DAO cohort here. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, nice article. Okay, yeah, cohort intake form. Okay, actually, this is my first time actually opening this, so let's take a look. So it's definitely something that's still being discussed because it looks like it's going to be a pretty big commitment. I think from what I understand, it looks like there's a week 1 intake and prep. Mapping the now, envisioning the future. Trust and governance assessment, fear, change, and strategic priorities, working group activation, integration and launch planning. What you get. Has anybody else seen this yet?
Yeah, so I took a look, and I applaud the initiative. I think it's a great initiative. As we've talked about in a couple of different forums before, and I'm a guy that tends towards action. So I made a proposal on the forum that goes cuts straight to the chase and makes a proposal for how to solve for the next evolution, which might be too fast for this group, right? We might need to sense make before we actually vote on something like that, but I wanted to put it out there anyways. What my sense of what Koi is proposing here with the intake form is a slower way of getting to the same place, to educate and get everyone sort of on the same board of how do we go through the journey of finding our next stage. It raised a couple of questions for me. Most importantly, like, is this an effort to inform and educate the people that are in the cohort, which would be amazing, or is it an effort to come up with a proposal, come up with the target state for what Greenpill will be, which would also be amazing. But those are two very different things, and I'm a little confused as to what that is. And if it's the latter, if it's for us to use that cohort to come up with a target, the next state for Greenpill, then we need to sort of be more careful about how do we set up the cohort, who's going to be in there. If you can't make the commitment, but you still want to be in there, do you have a way of doing that? Do we empower that cohort to make a proposal? All of those questions kind of have to be answered before the cohort starts. But if it's the first option that I originally thought there was going to be just to educate the people that want to be part of the journey, then it'd be much easier. Just get started with the cohort right away, and it's easier. So that's the question that it raised with me, and I'm curious to hear what. I know Koi's not here, but what do you guys think about that? Because I'm certainly one that would be involved, would be very interested in being part of shaping the next strategy. I don't know that I will be able to commit to 6 weeks, but if that's what it takes, then for sure. But that I would only go into that sort of 6 week commitment if I knew that at the end of it we would have a new proposal for a new state for Greenpill. Mm-hmm. That's my personal, but I think everyone else has to kind of figure out. Is it worth it to go into that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. It's good point, Kaz. And we've talked about it in some other calls. But I mean, I love the cohort thing, and they seem to cover a lot in that plan. So I'm wondering if there seems like a lot that, like I said, it's a lot for people to commit to. 6 weeks, 3-4 hours a week. It's a lot, so it is, which is will allow people to go deep, but it will naturally limit participation. And I feel like if partly we need people to go deep, but also I think we want broad input into this process if we are trying to figure out things like structure and strategy and kind of some very deep issues about network and the future of the network. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder if there is something in that gravity that if in that process that we can cut down some of the stuff and really focus on what is the key things, or or design a process of which a cohort is a part, but maybe not the whole thing. I don't know. I'm open to that's just a thought on that. And here's Durgadas right now. Welcome.
Yeah, perfect.
No, did he join us? Nice. I don't want to put you on the spot. We're just talking about.
Yeah, I saw Leo's message there and thought,
No.
pop over.
Yeah, so we were just discussing. It'd be good to get your kind of insights on this potential cohort for the network that you've been talking to Corey about.
Yeah, I think I'd propose that we set up a kind of cross thing. So you've got the network, the guild, and some representatives of chapters, and then from that, then we would basically talk about the relationship between those things and whatever that looks like now. So there was, I think I'd brought up numerous things that could come out of this, and I know Owaki is currently in an X space right now, so it's not like he's here, but he's also some of the meta things that we've talked about in other group things that I've had in the past is like a lot of times you have the 800-pound gorilla in the room, or the 800-pound gorilla who's not in the room often. And so like this is this guy will send everybody to a meeting to talk about all these things, but all the people in the room don't necessarily have the power to make that change. And so just making sure that there's some that everybody who is a stakeholder and decision maker or a veto holder is in the room for that cross organization idea. And then from that point, then once you decide how that relationship is going to work, so in my head, not knowing a lot about the history of the organization, I would love to see, just because of the name and everything, I think it would be great that the Greenpill network would be focused on creating network effects for the Dev Guild and for the chapters, whereas the guilds might be, the implementation or the creation of whatever it is, to create the products and things that you're looking to do. And then the chapters would then be kind of localized to a version of that have their own sets of local conditions, but try to operate to a guiding principle. So if you take a look, for example, at Richard Rumelt's work on good strategy, bad strategy. So there's actually a whole section in there where he talks about what the kernel is of a good strategy, right? And so there's a kind of a 3-part section there that you can refer to, and I think it would be good for each of you to understand what that is. So for example, like what's happening, what's the guiding policy, and what are the series of coherent actions that you're taking. So I think at this first meeting, it would be really nice if we could come up with a diagnosis of how those relationships would work, what are the guiding policies that's going to guide them, and then a set of coherent actions that each of those individual layers are going to take, and then to work within each of those individual groups to figure out how they can best strategize about meeting the objectives that are decided by the broader cohort. So that was my suggestion, and feel free to ask questions or interrogate my premise.
Thanks, that's helpful. I had previously talked about not knowing if this was an effort to sort of educate or if it was an effort to reach a new target state, and I think that you answered that. It's an effort to reach a new target state, which brings a couple of questions up. Like this cohort that we're signing up for now is a big commitment. Not everyone can commit to that kind of time effort, but still would be interested in joining in any talk that has to do with strategizing on where we're going to end up. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, like, we haven't really gone through a process to select, like, this is the process we're going to go with versus other processes. We haven't gone through any kind of effort to legitimize this cohort to be able to take decisions on strategy or even propose a strategy. So what are you thinking about that? Like, how can we make this legitimized before we even get started?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, I guess this is a question for the whole group. But if you have an opinion, that'd be awesome.
Well, I mean, in terms of legitimacy, like, I'm gonna talk to whoever's there, right? So, so that I don't know that it's for me to decide what's legitimate or not. I would hope that whoever would be showing up would carry with them some level of legitimacy or authority or ability to make these kinds of decisions. I don't also think that it necessarily means that you're doing something new, right? It just to have it be really clear. So rather than it doesn't necessarily have to be new, but the thing that's new about it might just be the clarity about exactly what's happening and who's making promises to who and what the do you know what I mean? So it might not be really that different at all, just better or clearer, or that's kind of the idea. And so I'm not necessarily suggesting that you do something different. It's just to in my mind, as somebody who doesn't really know a lot about it, there's questions for me, things that I think are on the surface, maybe because you've been here a long time, might not be as obvious because you might make certain assumptions that I don't make because I'm kind of new. And one of those is like, okay, so this got started from an effort from Milwaukee and all these different things. Are you guys moving on from that now? Like, I know I'd done an analysis of his talk about the nature of how he speaks about this, you know, and that's changed over from, you know, like, hey, we need to start something new and do this thing, to now we have kind of like this continuation that's happening. And are you guys going to be sort of acting in a more autonomous way? Are you still taking direction from him? Like, what's the, you know, what is it? So that's again the 800-pound gorilla that's not in the room, right? So like, like, how do you actually decide what that's going to be? My suggestion was to have you guys as a cohort try to say, what is it that you guys as a cohort are comfortable with respect to that relationship, and then go back and present that to him as one of the potential outcomes from this. You know, so there are numerous other things, but this is one of the things I had thought about in this kind of.
Yeah, I think there's we're thinking of ourselves as a decentralized organization, so I think there's at least some in the call that will think that, you know, he's not the boss of us. He's very much a figurehead, and if he says something, then obviously we'll listen. But we want to try and set up a network in a way that we can all act autonomously but still be coordinated. Back to my question there, I think that, you know, I just want to avoid a situation where we end up with like 25% of the stewards go into this cohort, and the other 75% that are not in there are going to have a allergic reaction to whatever comes out of it, right? So, yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen, but I just want to set us up so that doesn't even have a chance of happening. And one way of doing it would be to just be super open with what's going on in the cohort, and always, you know, after each session saying, you know, here's what we got up to, or launch a survey, you know, this is what are the questions that we need to answer before the next time, to get the whole network involved in the process. Even if you're not making the commitment to be in the cohort, you're still feeling that, you know, it's not done in a vacuum, it's not a black box. I feel like I'm involved in the process, and my voice is heard. I think as long as we can structure it that way, that would help a lot, I think.
Yeah, I have no disagreement with that on any level.
Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, thanks. I think I just love this the timeline and the different things you've included on here, Durgadas, for the cohort. There's lots of different things here, and I guess I just have a couple concerns with just around the process. Just I guess it's a big commitment that we're asking of people for 6 weeks, 4 hours or so. Maybe not including homework, right? Each week. So it's. I'm sure there will be some people. I know some people would definitely able to participate in this. I just worry that we wouldn't get a really broad range of people, or a representative sample with this approach. And I think one of the things that's happening in the network is there's certain people who kind of who emerged as leaders, taking leadership roles, which is great. And also I think it's important so that the whole network is represented and has a say. And a process like this, and I think it could lead to something quite different, because it feels like an inflection point potentially for Greenpill network. And it is an opportunity to reinvigorate the network, redefine, reimagine, recenter, and so it is important. And at the same time as saying, I think 24 hours is more than a lot of people can commit to, and also it skews what the type of person is that can contribute, right? The type of person who has free time, has that amount of time to commit, which is more likely to be someone from the global north, etc. And as well as saying it's 24 hours, it's a lot. There are parts in here I think would take longer than that, like longer than the time allotted. So And again, you know, you know this better than I do, but I've been through some of these processes myself and stuff like this. You know, the systems mapping exercise, which I love that you have in the first session. I think that's absolutely key place to start. And I don't think you can do it in 90 minutes with only the people who show up to the cohort. I think, and it's not like an either or, maybe it's both and, but something like a systems mapping exercise, there'll be things about value flows and relationships between different chapters and relationships between different individuals within those groups and things like that that are really important to capture, that will only be known by those people involved in those in those interactions, those relationships. So I feel like a systems mapping exercise has to happen at a system-wide level, at the network-wide level. And of course, you know, there'd be some people who can you know, fill out some things, but I think we need the wider network. And also this kind of the theory of change work that, you know, we've got this for you know 2 hours in here, which, you know, maybe it can be done in 2 hours, but I've been a part of theory of change processes that have taken 2 months, you know, and I don't think we want to take 2 months. I don't think we necessarily have to, but I also think that, again, you know, there may be some variance in theories of change between different chapters. Maybe some chapters have theories of change that they're working with or not, or, you know, and I think we can definitely find the commonalities. I think we can definitely find a theory of change that resonates for the whole network. But it might take more than 2 hours, maybe, you know, things like this. So I think overall I love what is here. I think we want to make sure that we can get the input that we want without creating unnecessarily like bottlenecks or delays in the process. Just understanding that it is a decentralized network that has come together in a kind of loose, very organic, emergent way. That we just might want to get the more input and
Afo, can I just respond to that real
yeah,
quick?
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, cool. That's fine.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just have, because I wanted to chime in earlier because I'm not sure how much we just put together or how involved you were in putting that form together. I don't know if you're aware of the intake form, so I was just going to ask that. Yeah. So over to you if you're even aware of this.
Well, this is the alternate timeline. I don't know if that's what you guys are looking at. But,
yeah, that's what I was looking at. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So the systems mapping exercise is functionally 2 weeks plus 90 minutes or 3.5 hours. So so 2 weeks plus the 3.5 hours we're going to go through. So it's like, for me, the systems mapping is the pre-cohort preparation, doing all this sort of pre-digestion stuff. Yeah, like, you know, your concerns are valid in a sense. I would say that I'm basically trying to suggest that the inflection point that I'm observing is that changing over from being an organic group of people that just sort of naturally glom together because of, you know, this cool idea you had, moving into a strategic, organized, yet flexible approach to things is an inflection point just on its own, right? And one of the main things that I talk about here, and one of the graphics I'll share with you is really about like interacting. And so there's a kind of idea that I have about interacting that you know, is quite you know, detailed. I wonder if I can send that through this. No, I'll send it to you in the image grow then. Here we go. So there's this idea of generative interactions, and this blows up quite a bit bigger. Let's see. I don't know why my copy and paste isn't working. Oh, there we go. So you can bring that up too on the shared screen if you don't mind. Yeah, I don't know why it's going to that link. Can you not? Can you not see?
I'll try it again.
That was hilarious.
Let's see. Yeah, this open. This opens that.
Yeah, that's odd. Let's see.
Can you copy the image address?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did. That's, you know, like, I don't know. Like,
oh wait, it's two. There's two URLs here. I see image shared, then it's.
Okay, so that
There you
should
go. There
be
you go. There you go.
the one.
Yeah, okay, that works. Yeah, there we go.
So yeah, if you blow that up, basically the idea is that I'm basically saying I'm kind of sitting in a moderation position, and so the whole idea here is that you can do this a couple of different ways. You can do it in a participatory way, which is bounded and ground and things. And I think maybe what I'm hearing is a little bit of an expression that some of these ideas might be mistakenly approached in a systems thinking. If you scroll down a little bit for me, please. There is this iterative thing. I don't actually think you guys are iterating. I think the thing that you probably need here is to evolve. So, you know, because you're a complex system with a lot of moving parts and a very organic way of looking at things, I think it would be a mistake to look at this in a governing constraint way. I'm assuming that there is everything about that is known, right? I don't think we know everything about what's going on. And so my way of interacting with this with respect to you guys would be to say, I'm the moderator here, and what I am trying to determine here is what is your unique point of view or mission. So a lot of times the moderator will be somebody who is the one that is the holder of that unique point of view or mission. In my case, the whole idea of my moderating is to actually uncover what the unique point of view or mission, and my job is to hold space and context and sort of pull these moderative things out from you, as well as getting a sense of what is in this curated thing. What do you guys already have existing? And then to have aspects of this where we can create generative yes and discussions around them. So if you scroll back up again, the thing is, generally we start on the left side with the outline. So basically we're just having an outline saying, here's the outline that we have of what this thing is going to be. We're going to promote it, and we're going to try to tell you everything about it. So I'm showing up in this conversation because I want you guys to know about everything, and I want you to be able to ask questions and do all of that, and to set expectations, and to let you know what my role is so that you can feel safe in participating in this. So you can see I'm documented all of this right on in the process, right? And so my whole thing is to kind of hold the process together, right? And it's not necessarily to determine what you guys are, what your own tradition is. It's not necessarily to figure out what you guys want to do in terms of moderation, but it's to actually make clearer how to go about all of these things. And so you know, so I would like to just say that, you know, if I was going to advocate for something, I would advocate for a generative way of interacting, and I think you can kind of start with that outline as a beginning point, and then work your way all the way around. And what I'm hoping as a part of this before we even get to basically like between the end of this sort of step one thing that's in the outline and where we start with step two, that we're actually going to be on that right side, you know. So hopefully we'll be able to talk about what's alive in us, and we'll get really engaged, and we'll cross-pollinate, and we'll be doing the yes and thing in this part of it. Hopefully from that we'll discover things, document what those things are, do some sense making around that, and then if you scroll down a little bit, then we'll end up with the bottom part of the right to say, let's now emotionally process. So you can see it along the bottom there, I've got emotional change agent, educational change agent, and technical change agent. the reason why it's really important when you're over there doing sense making is people are going to have feelings about it, right? And so in many ways, not only am I trying to help you guys go through a particular process like this, but also to teach you kind of the inner workings of how this process functions, so that you guys can maybe create a moderator, or create a group of people who can moderate across from the network to the guilds, and from the guilds to the chapters, and vice versa, right? And so this isn't just for me about making decisions. This isn't just that bottom thing where you've got testing, decisions, and courage, and all of that. That's not all of what we're trying to do here. This is a more complicated, nuanced process, and there's ways to do this that are just iterative. But I actually think you guys need to do it in kind of an enabling constraints fashion. So that is to say, I want to set up a set of constraints for you that enable your guys' future growth, as opposed to just saying, this is what we got to do in this one thing that everyone knows every aspect of. So I hope it makes some sense, like that there is, in fact, a kind of a deeper pedagogy or understanding of how I would go about conducting this. And I would be showing you guys this during the process, because we actually, there are people who are going to naturally be more on that left side, where they care more about the tradition and what was and what is, and they care more about caretaking for the the thing that, the traditional, whatever it is that they, that they're comfortable with. There are people who just want to have ideas, and they just want to be on that right side of the thing, and it's all about just everyone interacting. And then there's also people who, need to be able to see both sides. And so there, within the organization, I think there's these three sort of general roles, and I think it's important to have all three and make sure people are competent in all three. And I'm basically just stepping in to say, hey, I'd like to show you a good example of how this can be done well, and hopefully you guys will be then motivated to identify people who are, in the left side or the right side or in the middle, and then train those people to be better at what they're doing, so that the meta of your whole organizational thing can, get improved over time. So it's not just that we're trying to sort of fix something. It's this total process, and also to give people, some competence at whatever it is that they feel naturally inclined to deal with. So I am hoping that within this period, one of the meta things I'm going to be looking for is, within this, there might be somebody who's a bit more one way or the other, and I'd like to be able to talk about those people, and maybe within, if you're a representative of a chapter or a guild, maybe you can say, oh, I know a guy who's really just cares about the database or whatever, and then that's going to be a curated traditional guy on that left side. And so, so I'm hoping that what you'll be able to see is some patterns in the people that you work with, and the systems that you're using, and the ways that you go about doing things within all of this. So yeah, I don't want you to think that it's it's a simple process at all, and I'm definitely aware of how you guys sort of came about, but my observation of how what the inflection point that you're at is basically moving from this kind of organic net leaders came out of nowhere and did this thing. Like I think it'd be better to have some some identification of how some of these roles can show up, both in the formal job role kind of a situation, but also to train people to be better moderators, or train people to manage cross-pollination and generative discussions. And if it just depends on your natural inclination. Maybe up to this point you've done the left side thing and you're ready to move a little bit to the right, and so now I'm gonna, I'd like to be thinking about things in a more moderation sort of fashion. So there's a lot of ways we can approach this, and it's been my experience in dealing with people and talking about this particular thing is some people are just comfortable on the top side, some people are comfortable on the left side, some people are comfortable on the right side, some people are comfortable only at the bottom, you know, so these are all things that will come out of a process, I hope. So I hope that this little graphic is
Cool. Okay. Yeah, other thoughts? We've got 10 more minutes.
Just for context, and I think I've missed a few conversations perhaps, but so when are we looking to take this forward? And is that the 24, is that the 2 weeks and 90 minutes conversation that you've had earlier? Or what is the timeline around this and what is the goal?
From my go ahead, Douglas. Yeah, from my understanding, we haven't formally launched. I know Corey shared the intake form, but we haven't yet. We haven't done any of the sessions yet, and I still think it's up to debate because it is a big lift, like a big commitment. So I think we definitely need to gather more consensus around it, before I think moving forward. I also wonder, Durgadas, like, can we just do one of these sessions? Like, is the 6 weeks like really required to do this, or there could be a ton of value gained from this one?
Well, keep in mind that the structure was originated with Coy, right? So he was the one that was proposing this timeline. I basically just modified the contents of the timeline. So so I just said, because he wanted to do like the Triz thing right away, and I was like, well, that's probably not going to be good enough unless you built a lot of trust along the way. So thanks, Kingfisher Media. Is that Will there, I guess?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the other thing that came up when I was looking at this was that no, I've lost it.
Just while you're finding that, yeah, so the reason I'm asking is because I did apply for that and I did fill in that form, but we haven't heard anything back yet. So I think if there's just a little bit more communication around the flow and like to be able to plan things, it'll be very helpful.
I'm not sure who's on the other side of that form. I would imagine
it's Corey.
So
I'll reach out to him. Cool.
So he and I have been kind of going back and forth around this, and I'm glad I'm here because I'm happy to answer questions around it. I don't see Coy in here, so that's a little bit of it's a little bit of an L on that side of it. But yeah, I basically from my mind, there are really two processes, right? One is like the lead up to, and I think it's, for me, the work that I do at Gravity is the centerpiece of this entire thing. Like, what is it that I'm holding up with these two things? Like, the thing that exists in the middle of all this is I have a basic ethos that I think we spend a lot of time in this Web3 world. I don't know if you guys have read any of my paragraph articles or anything, but I'm actually talking a lot in my paragraph articles about the failure of tech first.
Would you mind sharing that?
Solution.
I heard other information about that today as well on a podcast, so I'd love to read more.
Yeah, and so I'm happy to do that. I'll send you the link in the chat right now. In fact, but basically, tech first solutions fail, and but what they tend to do is they tend to push our brains into thinking about things in a tech first way. And there's the long tail of the tech first approach to anything is that one of those long tail implications is that we get really willing to spend a lot of time learning programming languages and technical things, and we might branch out to some governance stuff, but almost always we're going to be like, well, how can I run a program for governance? And this kind of, there's still this like tech first mentality about almost everything. And the basic premise of Gravity as a whole is that I feel like we need to spend time, because everyone's talking about the investment of time, but we'll gladly spend a lot of time learning all these technical things, but we spend very little time learning about the way in which we can all have a shared language around what we're actually doing, how we treat each other, how do we govern ourselves, all of this stuff. It's not a thing that happens after the fact. So moving away from kind of an ad hoc, organic way of doing things into a strategic approach means that you have to design something, right? So getting away from designing products to getting into designing how you guys work together and how you talk to each other and what the shared languages with which you're using to create those kinds of things. That's the basic premise of what this is. And that's the basic premise of all the work that we do at Gravity, is that it is actually worthwhile, productive, and force multiplying and profitable to work on these kinds of things, right? To create shared language between us. So like if you look at something just as simple as nonviolent communication, if everybody understood nonviolent communication, then you would have a shared protocol with which to be able to have difficult discussions, to be able to resolve things between each other, because, oh, guess what? We all have feelings and needs. And, if you understand what the other person's feeling and that feeling comes from a need that's not met, I mean, you could look at it as a technical diagram, as a dependency. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like, it's like so just having shared language around how to do all these things is my basic proposition of this, is that I think it's worthwhile, builds a lot of trust, because you guys it's hard to do this work. So typically if you're suffering through stuff with other people, guess what you get out of the back end of that is you get a lot of trust and a lot of connection, a lot of relationship in their emotional bank account from that. So please go ahead.
Sounds a bit, just to finish on that thought, it sounds a lot like watching the series The Bear, where it's complete chaos but a lot of creativity and a lot of trust eventually. And they've got they have signals that they show they've got a protocol that works well. So
right.
Cool. Anyway, thanks.
I still didn't watch that show, but I heard good things.
I haven't seen it.
Yes. Well, that was great. Yeah, we're just about at the top of the hour. So definitely we want to close things. And I think this has been super insightful. I highly recommend Durgadas, I know you joined later, to rewatch the call if you can, because I did a walkthrough of the phases of the network that I think could give you a lot of context for this cohort.
Sure.
And just appreciate everybody sharing their thoughts and jamming in and jamming together and figuring things out. So I think I had a couple more thoughts, but we could definitely say that for a network sync. Just want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Okay.
Appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
And have a good rest.
Thanks for sharing all those thoughts.
Oh man, closing reminders.
Closing reminders. Quick with this. I feel like it's another push to just finish getting like all the information and documentation kind of out there. And then Stewart Sync will really get into it and talk about it in Telegram and move things along. But appreciate everybody sharing some thoughts there.
Yeah, and in the future, don't forget to DM me if you think that I should be in a particular call or whatever with you guys. So
Cool.
Nice.
I appreciate you. And I'll bust through these because I know we're almost at the 2-hour mark, but this is, as we've been saying, this is like a really major transition for the network. So easier times will be ahead, but for now, we gotta do our homework and do things right. All right, so season 9 of the Greenpill podcast is officially live. I see the second episode actually just dropped, so I'm excited to listen to that while I'm cleaning bottles and doing dad stuff over here. It's with the Journo DAO team. Huge fan of them, and I personally love these like different host seasons, so definitely check that out. We were talking about the Atlantis DNFT campaign or whatever you want to call it earlier. Definitely, you know, if you're from an impact org, get some bounties out there. If you're an individual, fund some bounties, execute on the bounties. Yeah, mint your Greenpill. So the Ethereum 10-year anniversary is coming up. I think it's July 30th is the official day. I know that there's at least 5 chapters that are hosting events. I know the New York City chapter was thinking about co-hosting an event as well. And Earthu was saying that, you know, we should make a push to really get as many chapters doing stuff that day as possible. I think that would be cool. And yeah, we could kind of put together some sort of visual storytelling of all those events kind of combined. So yeah, I say we press forward with that. So yeah, the Regen Coordination Hub threads were linked earlier. Just going to keep mentioning that. I know Alpha needs to get his reply out there. I need to get mine out there as well. But I'd highly recommend everybody takes the time to finish kind of dumping whatever thoughts you have into that thread. I've said it before, I'm not really sure how we take all of our artifacts and like steward sync recordings and these hub posts and like turn it into something cohesive that we can kind of move forward into. I think that's kind of what we're going to end up doing with the, you know, the super benefit DAO / gravity DAO type stuff. But yep. Garden's funding pool is still live. If I gotta find a link, I want to keep moving through this, but we'll share a link in maybe Alpha can share a link in the chat. But yeah, I think we should really just keep onboarding people and leaning into that as much as humanly possible for like lesser group funding decisions. And then, yeah, I think one thing, so I'll kick this to Alpha to share some quick thoughts, but you had a call with Austin Griffith about doing like a regen vibe coding session. So I think we need to collect ideas for what he could vibe code. Alpha, you want to share any quick thoughts about that?
Yeah. Actually, one quick thing. First Garden proposal has passed. Swift Evo's proposal has been executed. Woo! Good stuff. $250 for Green Side funding pool. Awesome. Yeah. So on the vibe coding session, Austin Griffith is down to do one around the 22nd through 25th, one of those days. And the idea is to do something, you know, regenerative, Greenpill centric. So I'll be sharing on the hub for people to share their, you know, ideas for that session of what we could vibe code. Then we'll turn that into a snapshot poll for a few days where people could vote on, you know, which prompt to work on, and then we'll have that call where people could join and yeah, vibe code. So yeah, should be fun. You know, this is our first one, so we'll see how it goes.
Sweet. And yeah, I'm sure we'll blast it out across all Telegram, Discord, et cetera, and make sure everybody's aware. Yeah, we already got into the super benefit DAO and gravity DAO stuff. Yeah, I guess more ecosystem news. Octane Epoch 8 allocation window opens up in 22 hours. Ethereum core infrastructure. You know, obviously we love Octane here, so if you don't have any GLM, get some GLM and make sure that you can, you know, take part in that ecosystem at some point soon. I think there's going to be one more epoch within this kind of structure, and then I'm sure we're all kind of waiting excitedly to see what comes after that. And we also did mention the V2, the vault strategies is something that's everybody should probably spend some time and kind of look into. And then moving forward, we got Bitcoin sense making season is officially underway. I think there's a Twitter space actually happening right now, so that's another one. The next batch of bottles I'm cleaning, I'll listen to that one. But yeah, GG24 coming up. Talk about major transitions. That's going to be a major transition. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of alpha in there. And then since, you know, I always kind of reference them as like the holy trinity of Octane, Gitcoin, and Giveth. Got to mention Giveth. They've actually been doing some cool like weekly theme spotlights probably on Farcaster too, but I've been seeing them on Twitter where it's like, you know, this is community week, and they kind of share a bunch of different projects that are focused on that. So I'd highly recommend taking a look at that. And then also, I just wanted to take a moment to mention Daniel dropped the thread in the hub, which again, I'd highly recommend everybody to really lean into this regen coordination hub and to feel free to post stuff in there, because it's just much easier to have like long form conversations about stuff. So yeah, I threw a link there, and then he sent me a quick message. So it's an interesting new dual consensus mechanism that goes beyond proof of work, electricity turned into capital, and proof of stake, capital kept hostage to make the rich richer, and a proposal for a new model called proof of life. Head out to the Regen Coordination Forum, link in the chat. So thank you, Daniel, for sharing that. And I believe that is most of the news. I think Rosemary is no longer here, but I know Optimism Fractal threw out a new video recently too with Respect Games. That's probably worth a listen as well. I think that's the main news that's top of mind right now. Actually, you know what? I will mention one other thing. I've been making a huge push to really retweet a lot of different stuff with the Greenpill Network account and with the Greenpill Writers Guild account. So definitely follow those if you aren't already. I assume everybody here already is, but yeah, and I've engaged with people to kind of ask, like, people are cool with this or any feedback. So if anybody's got feedback or better ideas, I'm all ears. And yeah, solid call. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, man. Good stuff. And I just resent the Web3 tooling survey just in case anybody wants to take some time to fill that out. Yeah, all right, so let's go to closing screen. So yeah, that's actually a conclusion. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks for your time. Hope to see you next month. It might be a whole different time, so be on the lookout for that. Yeah, great stuff. I'm really, we're at an inflection point, and next month will be a whole new network probably. So see everybody then. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers.
Ciao.
See ya.